empowering minds, amplifying voices, and transforming lives. This is the Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by the Destiny Connect Foundation. Your hosts, 𝗂𝗍𝗍 and 𝗵𝗵𝗡.
All right, we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Untold Stories of Hope podcast with Destiny Connect Foundation, a place where we amplify minds, we empower lives, and we transform people with our own story. And I believe that everyone's story needs to be heard, everyone's story needs to be seen. And on this platform, we give you a stage where your story is seen, where your story is heard, and where your story can be able to impact lives globally. And we welcome you. And today's conversation is going to be an interesting one because we have someone amazing with us, someone you would love to hear from, someone whose story is unique, someone whose impact is felt globally. Don't worry, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. Do not forget, my name is 𝗧𝗍𝗍. I'm joining you all the way from Nigeria. And I have my brother, my friend, right with me on stage, hosting this event with me today. All right, Mr. Poppy, I yield the mic to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Z, and happy birthday to you, my brother Zion. We are really happy for you and all the team for Untold Stories of Hope podcast and Destiny Connect Foundation. We want to wish you nothing but the best, and we hope that the cake that you are eating, you are going to share it with those closest to you. So enjoy, my brother, and may many doors open for you. So if you've just tuned in now, as Mr. Z said, welcome to Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation. My name is 𝗵𝗵𝗡, and I'm all the way from South Africa. And yes, we are humbled with audacity to be in this platform because we know that we are going to hear a lot of transformational leadership and positive mindset, lessons that are going to equip us. And I know that we have a phenomenal guest, Mr. Zion. It's a wonderful, amazing, woman who has got so much expertise in terms of leadership and also positive mindset. And we are not, even shy to say, please get your pen and your notebook, because I believe you are going to learn a lot. We are indeed empowering minds, we are amplifying voices, and we are transforming lives.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Poppy. It's always a privilege to do this with you because of the energy you bring, the enthusiasm, the passion, and the heart to make an impact. And it's beautiful because this podcast is tailored for everyone. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what you've been through in life. This podcast is tailored for you because it's transformative. And today we have someone that has gone to the transformation stage, and she's here to use her story as a catalyst to encourage you that indeed you can be transformed. Indeed, you can embrace leadership. It doesn't matter where you are. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to keep that hands jamming together. I know you're not here with us on stage right now, but wherever you are listening to this podcast, let's make welcome Dr. Janine Cabo. Dr. Janine, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning on another edition of this podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great, Zion. It's great to be here. Hi, 𝗵𝗵𝗡. It's always great to be here with you, gents. And I'm looking to have some minds transformed today with this topic and making some impact. You're right, 𝗵𝗵𝗡. There's going to be some powerful things to be shared today. So grab your notebooks and your notepads ready, because what you teach, you remember. So remember to write it down so that you can, again, teach somebody else with it and transform their life.
Amazing. You heard her. You are about to be transformed. That was very, very profound. For everyone listening to this podcast, pay key attention. Dr. Jenny, we want you to introduce yourself. For persons who are hearing your voice or seeing you for the very first time, they really want to know you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself so we can have a background of the person we are listening to?
Perfect. So, Zion, my name is Dr. Janine 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, and I'm also residing I'm from South Africa. I was born and bred here, proudly South African. And I have always had an entrepreneurial heart and a heart to make an impact. I just never knew I was going to use business as the tool to do so. And from a very young age, I was in the entrepreneurial space. If you ask my parents, I was always selling the newest, what we now call today, trend. If there was something, I was selling it at school or somewhere else, making money to go do something more with that. So that's where I come from. I then went to go and study business and marketing. To be honest, I just wanted to get into business. And I thank God today for the wisdom of my parents that said, go and study first, because I needed some experience. And, you know, from there, I've just been in the business world. And in that process, I discovered leadership and I discovered impact. And in 2013, I got invited to attend the John Maxwell course in America, and the certification to become a certified speaker and trainer and life coach as well. And that was where transformation started for me, was at that event. And I always tell the story. I remember walking into that room in Orlando many years ago. And as I walked in, I realized I am the youngest in this room. And how am I ever going to make an impact and a change with these people around me? And I'm a very prepared person, Zion, Buffy. So I don't just walk into stuff, I'm fully prepared. And I walked into that room today and I was that day, and I was so excited for the conference and the certification and what was about to happen. And I sat down, and the first thing they started with was, are you ready for your first assignment? And everything inside me just went blank. I felt the blood drain from my head to my toes because I didn't see anything about an assignment. And they said, well, the first assignment is you're going to introduce yourself for the next 20 minutes. And again, I was like, I almost couldn't breathe. And they were like, oh, and there's somebody from South Africa. Why don't you just start us off? And the next moment I had to stand, they like, stand up and introduce yourself. You've got 20 minutes. I didn't prepare for it. I didn't know what I was saying. I cannot remember what I was saying, but even as I got up from my chair, I saw the table seating number in the middle, and it said, do it afraid. And for me, that's the message of transformational leadership, is do it afraid. That's where it started for me. I stood up, I spoke for 20 minutes. I still have a relationship with those people today, so it couldn't have been that bad. And, you know, I walked out of that journey inspired, informed, and ready for transformation. I made a decision that day that transformation needs to happen, not just in my life, but in the lives of others. And through that, I then birthed many businesses. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I have also got my doctorate, busy finishing my PhD in advanced strategic leadership. It's truly a passion of mine to empower people. And through that, the acronym GRIT was born, is something that I teach often, where GRIT stands for growth, resilience, intentionality, and transformation. So that is what I do. That is what I live for, is to help people build grit in their lives, which is growth, resilience, intentionality, and transformation. And it's brought me to where I am today, and transforming and impacting lives, as doing that is on my daily basis. And just, I love what I do, Zion. I love what I do, Buffy. I get to impact the lives.
That's beautiful.
People.
You know, Dr. Janine, you are one of the people that really, when you enter into a space, you know, someone would send presence, you know, in terms of knowing who you are, you know, and really standing your ground in terms of being a leader. And I thank you so much for that story, because, you know, it's always nice to hear your story, where you're coming from, how did you become a doctor, what did you study, and all that. And in being a visionary, which I know you are, visionaries often face doubt and criticism. A lot of it. I'm coming from that. I mean, there are so many people who gave up visions, who gave up dreams because of doubt, because of criticism. But there's one day when someone really taught me these words. And they said, you know, it's a phrase that really has changed my life. And they said, where there's great power, there is great responsibility. Because I believe in the position where you are as a leader, you are carrying a specific amount of power and influence. So how do you deal with doubt and criticism? How do you remain steadfast in your vision while you are maintaining a hopeful and positive outlook?
So, Buffy, that's a great question, and remind me of something I spoke about earlier, is that pressure is privilege. I can't recall who said that, but it's so true. It's based on what you just said now. And in the journey that we face as leaders, we are facing pressure, but we should see it as a privilege. We experience self-doubt, we experience criticism, and the way that I navigate through that is through quickly managing my emotions. So why people struggle with this and it becomes a flow blocker in their life is because they become stuck on self-doubt, they become stuck on criticism, and they analyze that thing so much that they're not working through it. I firmly believe that you don't get over stuff. I know people say, oh, just build a bridge and get over it. I cannot believe in that, because for me, you have to get through something. You don't get over something. If you get over something, it means that you never dealt with it. If you get through something, it means you're dealing with it. And the art of leadership is how quickly you can manage and deal with emotions, because the fact of the matter is, Buffy, that you're always going to have self-doubt and you're always going to have criticism, no matter where you are. Every level of leadership has its own challenges, has its own pressures. How quickly can you move through the motions and the emotions? How quickly can you work through that in order to move past it? That's how you move forward, is to working through stuff. It's going to be there, Buffy, but what is your method? What is your tool that you are using? Mine is emotional intelligence. Mine is identity, knowing who I am and knowing the tools that I have and what I can do to navigate through. I know where I'm going. You see, and I think that's the difference. I know where I'm going and I know what I need in order to get there. And that is a positive mindset. It's a knowing on who I am and what my abilities are and the resources that's available to me. And that is my team and my people included. And if I have that, Buffy, I'm ready to take on this challenge. I don't care about self-doubt because I'm not the one doing this. You know what the beautiful thing about leadership is? A leader never crosses the finish line by himself. John Maxwell says that a leader finishes last because it makes sure that his whole team crosses the line. So I don't have to worry about self and about me. I worry about my team and I make sure that we all get through there. That's how I work through self-doubt and criticism. It's always going to be there. But you know what? I take it as feedback, or as I like to say, feed forward, because I look forward, I move forward, and we move through things.
Wow, amazing. That was very profound, Dr. Janine. I love it when you said, you take criticism as feedback or feed forward, because it's very important. How you see things determines your interpretation. That means how it affects you. And I love it. You also spoke about identity, emotional intelligence. These are things that a leader or a founder should have, because definitely criticisms will come. Difficulties will come, challenges will come, but how you approach them matters a lot. That's very powerful. I love the profound acronyms for growth, resilience, intentionality, and transformation. That was very powerful. I had to write that down quickly so that I will not forget that. And I'm sure our listener have written that down as well. Thank you. As I was listening to your story, you mentioned something that your transformation started when you attended the John Maxwell courses in the US. Now, for people who does not have that opportunity to travel to the US and attend John Maxwell courses, or to travel out of maybe their villages, their local town, some persons have not even left their city or their state before. Now, where does transformation really start from? Because people need to know.
Yeah,
so that's
true.
My question. Go ahead.
So Zion, transformation begins by understanding a calling. That's the moment when your why surpasses yourself and when your purpose takes precedence over your personal ambitions. I'll say that again because you can make some notes on this. It will help you tremendously. So transformation begins when you understand a calling. It's that moment when your why surpasses your individual self and when your purpose takes precedence. In other words, is more important over your personal ambitions. That change that happens is the change that is internal, and it emanates from the heart and it reflects outwardly. And maybe that is what you were saying, Buffy, that you see is transformation is internal and it reflects outwardly. It's when your why becomes bigger than who you are as a person. Why am I doing it? My purpose takes precedence over what I feel and what I think. I say a lot of the times, Zion, that when you are a leader, you have to put yourself sometimes a little bit, but you have to, self-care is very important. I'm not saying you don't take care of yourself. I'm just saying by being a leader, you put others in front of yourself. And if you can look, I always say also when it comes to calling, I think where people struggle is they see calling. I see we have a calling and we have a career. A lot of the times people confuse the two. They think that what they're doing from 9 to 5 is their calling. No, that's your career. Your calling comes from within. It forms inwardly and it transpires outwardly. That is your calling. That's when your why is bigger than yourself. When your purpose takes precedence over your personal ambitions. That's where transformation starts. It's about more than just yourself. So you can look at your own life. Where are the things that you're really passionate about? What are the things that really drives you? I love how John Maxwell defines it. He always says this: what makes you laugh and what makes you cry? That is where you can start. Because if you can figure that out, what is your passion? I also say that passion is the fuel that drives you to do greater things, right? So what is your passion? Well, your passion is always linked to your calling. And I speak always about passion, purpose, and power. When you know what your passion is, you will discover your purpose and you will have the power to put that through. That is transformation. It starts on the inside. You have to identify, who am I? It comes back to identity. Who am I? What drives me? What is my calling? What makes me laugh? What makes me cry? Those things will drive you to a cause, to an organization, to a vision, to something greater than yourself. Something greater than yourself. That is how you find transformation, Zion. That is how you discover it. It's within yourself.
Wow, that's amazing, Dr. Janine. You know, I listened to you and you said something following the question that I'm about to ask you. You said something so powerful about emotions, you know, not managing your emotions, but getting through, you know, getting through them, you know. It talks a lot about healing. It talks a lot about, you know, removing barriers and, you know, anything that tries to hinder us and prevent you from growing as a leader. And I understood you so well. And, you know, I believe, you know, you as a visionary, I always want to call you this because I know that you are that visionary. How do you stay aligned with your vision while you are embracing change and uncertainty? I mean, share with us an untold story, maybe about a time when adaptability became a key to your leadership.
I think I can first tell you the story of John Maxwell that inspired me. Because when I was in America, he told us this story, and I can't remember, it was a long time ago, so I don't have all the facts, but I have the purpose of the story. And I remember we were sitting there and speaking about transformational leadership, and he said, who's going with me to Guatemala? And I thought to myself, how's that even possible? You know, I'm from South Africa. That's even further than where I'm sitting at that point in time. And he said he wants to empower the youth. He wants to transform a country. And I thought to myself, how is one man going to do that? And it's like he heard my thoughts, because it's like, I'm not doing this by myself. Everyone in this room will play a part. Transformational leadership is not something that you do by yourself, is everybody plays a role. And he said that he's visited Guatemala. He's spoken to the president of Guatemala. And what they are going to do is they're going to transform the youth. They're going to start with the youth. They're going to bring in 147,000 teachers into Guatemala to teach the children, to educate them, because with that, crime will come down. They will have a future. Entrepreneurship will evolve. And at that point, Guatemala was a really scary place. And the president was not 100% convinced. And I remember John Maxwell's words where he said to him, this is the moment where transformation either happens or not. This is the moment where you change the future of your grandchildren. And the president gave him the go ahead. And John Maxwell asked him, he said, if only thing you have to do for me is within 3 months, gather the youth for me. When John Maxwell came back in 3 months' time, the president got a stadium, and inside that stadium was filled with youth, an entire stadium. You can just imagine how many people was in that room. And he came with 147,000 teachers. And the initiative was to equip the educators to be the catalyst for positive change for the generation and the ones to come. And John Maxwell in that room explained to all of them that the reason for change in the future of this country is them. And today they find themselves in the room of a future filled with change and prosperity. And the next moment, that youth started to chant, we are in the room. We are in the room. We are in the room. And you know what, gents? They just got it. They realized that they are in the room and they are the guys that is about to make the transformation. And today, as we're sitting here, you are also in the room. Everybody listening is in the room. And it's your chance and your opportunity to bring transformation. Everybody's transformational journey looks different, but we each get faced with a moment of transformation, and today is yours. I faced mine many times in my life. I think we face it more than once because as a leader, we are growing. And I can quickly talk, 𝗵𝗶hi, about the 3 levels of leadership, or the 3 pillars of leadership that we find. The first pillar of leadership is self-leadership. Now, self-leadership is very self-explanatory, right? It's when you are looking at your personal growth. When you are leading yourself, you will come at points of transformation within that journey, and you will be faced with transformation. You have a choice at every corner, at every turn. What am I going to transform, or am I going to stay the same? Then you have the second pillar, which is servant leadership. Now, servant leadership is about the growth of others. Now, can you see how you move from self to others? Now, you are focused on the leadership and growth of other people. So servant leadership is about placing the needs of others before your own. And I think for me personally, an example of that of a person is Jesus, because he washed the feet of his disciples, right? So there's many examples, but for me, that's a personal example. And then from servant leadership, you work towards transformational leadership. Now that is now change on a much larger scale. And a lot of people want to start at transformational leadership and they get discouraged because they can't get it right. It's maybe because you didn't follow the steps. You have to start with yourself. You have to have personal growth. Then your focus will be on others, where you serve. You have to have a heart of servanthood when you are a leader. We came to serve, right? And then from there, you move over to transformational leadership, and you take all the skills that you've learned up to now and you apply it to a larger group of people. And that's how you get to transformational leadership. If I use the example of Jesus that I said is an example for me, he wasn't just a leader, he was a transformational figure. Because if we look at his teachings, his actions radically changed individuals and communities. And that's why I use him as an example. And us as individuals and the actions that we take, we must make sure that we radically change individuals and communities.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Janine. I'm in the room, and I want our listeners, if you heard that, say to yourself, you are in the room. because together that's how we make an impact, because you belong to the moving train of impact makers in the world. So you have to tell yourself you are in the room. I'm in the room, Dr. Janine. We are all in the room together, and we are ready to make a transformative impact. You know, it's profound what you shared. You spoke about passion, purpose, and power, which for me resonated with me so much. You spoke about leadership, that leadership starts with you. So for anyone who wants to make an impact in the world, don't rush and be leading people. You can't lead people if you have not led yourself. So it starts with you. Learn to lead yourself. Thank you so much, Dr. Janine, for those powerful nuggets. You came really prepared for us, and I'm telling you, I'm sure everyone listening to you right now will be so inspired, and they really want to share their story. Now, this brings me to our next question. You know, what's your hope for the next generation of visionaries? People who want to be visionary. What's your hope for the next generation? And how can they balance hope, positivity, and practical leadership in their journey?
That's such a good question. My hope for the next generation is that great impact will be made towards leadership. And the reason I say that is that if we don't have leadership and people that lead by example, because that's what leadership is, then what are we going to have in the future? We won't have hope. We won't have transformation. We need visionaries to be birthed. And for that to happen, the current generation needs to be the example of leaders. They can only learn from us. So it's our responsibility to be the leaders, to show vision, to show hope, to show them and be the example that there is a greater future ahead. You know, the world can be so cruel and people are saying there's no future for you out there and how are you going to make it? And, you know, I've heard so many parents say, I don't even want children because what future is there for them? It's the future that you make for them. It's the future that currently you are creating for them. And that must be one of impact, transformation, and leadership. Heart, humility, transparency, clarity. And when it comes to vision, you need to be clear. When it comes to vision, you need to be clear. I always say that we so often underestimate what we can do. And this is a quote I heard that I've applied into my life. We underestimate what we can do in 10 years, but we overestimate what we do in a year. And if we as the current generation can help the youth of today understand that vision takes time, because and we often joke about this in a very serious way, actually, that we are raising the microwave generation. In other words, they think stuff must happen like this. But in reality, vision gets walked out over a long period of time, over decades, over generations. And you might not see the fulfillment of that full vision, but you will only play a part in it. And if you can grab that understanding, then you'll be able to walk in a vision of hope and transformation for the future. So what I want for them, Zion, is to understand the extent and the gravity of vision so that they can play their part of hope for the future.
That's powerful. I'm inspired. You know, earlier you said something when you said, you know, when you start, transformation begins when you start understanding your calling. And it now falls in line with what Zion has asked, you know, and I'm going to bring another follow-up question to you. And this one, there are so many people. You spoke about John Maxwell when he was in Guatemala, you know, and when he brought transformation there because of the level of whatever the crime and the challenges the young people were facing, especially because now he was thinking about the next generation. And we are here in South Africa. Mr. Zion is there in Nigeria. We still have these countries battling almost similar challenges. I mean, you look at South Africa, there's still crime there and there. There's still a lot of young people who really don't understand what being a visionary is, what leadership is. What's one lesson about hope and resilience that you've learned from the people you have led? And how did their stories impact you personally?
I think the lesson I have learned is to keep going, never stop. And if I say that, is you need to have a mindset of a lifetime learner. We need to develop. There is no such thing anymore that you can learn something and that's what you've got for the rest of your life. We need to develop a lifelong learner's mentality. And that's what I've seen with the people that I follow. They are always improving themselves. They are always learning something new. They are always pushing the limits. They are always, I want to say, going against the status quo. If people say they can't, you can't do it, they're like, no, let me show you, you can. They're always breaking barriers. That inspired me because I came to a point in my life where I was like, this is what success looks like. I have made it. And I promise you that was the worst place in my life. Because when you come to that place in your life, there's no vision, there's no future. You've reached the top. Where do you go from there? The place that I thought was going to be the biggest place of celebration felt to me personally like the biggest place of loss, because where am I going now? And at that moment, I realized that success is not in things and people and achievements. Success is personal. And with that personal success, I realized that now I need to dig deeper. I've just discovered the tip of the iceberg of what I'm capable of. It is my responsibility now to become that lifelong learner, to push the boundaries, to push the status quo. And for everyone, it's the same thing. When you reach success, after success, after success, it is just the indication that there's more for you to do. There's higher for you to go. There's further for you to go. But the thing I want to ask you today is, who are you taking with you? Because we can go there, we can make success by ourselves, but we can go much further when we take people with us. And that's the profound lesson that I've learned. Lifelong learnership, always push the boundaries and take people with you.
Oh, if you are still tuned in, welcome to Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation. My name is 𝗶𝗶𝗍𝗶𝗍 and I'm here with Mr. Zion Enegeru. You are still tuned in, where this is wonderful because we are with the phenomenal Dr. Janine Cabo, talking about transformational leadership and also positive mindset, because it's all captured in one. So if you want to follow our podcast, you can always visit Destiny Connect Foundation, either on the website, or you can also visit the page on LinkedIn, and you can search Untold Stories of Hope podcast. You can find it there. You can click and join and become part of the family.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Puffy, for that. Dr. Janine, I had to give you a round of applause for that profound lessons you've learned on your journey. And I love it when you said, take people along, because we live in a time where most people want to do it all by themselves. They call themselves a one-man army or a one-man soldier. From my experience, I've never heard that a one-man army won a war. A one-man soldier went to a war and won. No, the army has to be a team, has to be a group of people. And I love that thought-provoking question. For anyone listening to this podcast, that question is for you. Who are you carrying along? Who is going with you to make that impact? And you also mentioned something very profound, like keep going. Because people can get so complacent on this journey of impact. Because for me, I always say this, all you know is not all there is. The impact you think you've made right now is not all there is to make. There is still more. So making an impact is a journey and not a destination. So peradventure you are making an impact already. Don't see it as, oh, I've arrived. You've not arrived, because there's still more impact to make. Maybe you've conquered your city, you've conquered your state. There's still the entire country to conquer. Maybe you've conquered your country, there's still the continent to conquer. Maybe you've conquered your own continent, there are other continents to still conquer. That's the reason why we have to keep going, no giving up. You know, impact is a journey and not a destination. So thank you so much, Dr. Janine, for that. It's very profound. Now, I'll just ask this last question, you know, for anybody who really wants to make an impact, who really want to make a difference. You know, I know you've spoken about not going alone. You know, persons might want to know the reason why. Okay, she said don't go alone. Why should I not go alone? Because there are reasons behind not going alone. I'm sure that for you, you have worked in many things. What are the benefits of you working with people to make more impact? What are the benefits that you have learned as a person? You know, having people with you, you've given examples of John Maxwell. For you personally, what have you learned in teaming up with people to make an impact in the world?
For me, it comes down to when I have people around me, first of all, we can go higher and we can go further. And success, they always say, you hear a lot of people say that success or the top is so alone. I'm like, then you're doing it all wrong. Because when you get to the top and you are successful and you're surrounded by people, my belief is that's when you've done it right, because you're taking the people with. So what I always say is build a circle of trust. Build that circle of trust around you that can walk out that journey, because there's so much benefits in that. And if I take the word trust, because you know now that I love acronyms, and I've written this many years ago, but if you look at trust, the word trust, right? It's broken down for me into time. So what do you build when you have this circle of trust and people around you? You have time with people. Trust stands for time. The R stands for risk. There are risks involved. You're working with people. There's always risks involved, always. But you have time with people. It's a risk, but you have understanding. Leaders lead with empathy, and you have understanding. So you're building time, risk, understanding. You're building selflessness, because you lead people with selflessness. It's not about yourself, it's about everyone else. Like I said, I'm not putting down self-care, because you can't lead others if you don't take care of yourself, but you're looking at it selflessly. It's not about you. It's not about what you want to create. It's about the greater purpose, the bigger why. And then lastly, walking with people is going to test you. Walking with people is going to test you. It's going to test your character. But the benefit of that is trust. The benefit of that is combined success. It's being able to move further and go further. That is what you gain when you're walking a road with people. It is when I feel that when I walk my calling out and my career. When those two comes together, it's never by itself. It's always surrounded by people. You can celebrate with each other. And that's one of the benefits that you get. It's terrible to get to the top and to be alone.
Powerful. Dr. Janine, we are wrapping up now, and there are people out there. Someone wants to give up their dream. Someone feels the pressure. You said pressure, means privilege, because it brings the best out of you and it propels you forward. There's someone out there who feels, they've been trying this. I don't know. Let me be honest with you. I remember how many times I gave up in life because I was fighting this journey of breakthrough. I was fighting this journey of finding the right people to help me, and where I'm coming from, it was not easy to access the kind of resources I needed, the kind of mentorship, the kind of leadership, the kind of encouragement. It was not easy to find such. And I know there's someone out there who's listening and watching this podcast now, and they feel the same way. Someone feels like I've been in this journey. I've been trying this, I've been holding on. I've been fighting, but I'm exhausted. What can you say to them about positive mindset as the last word before we wrap up and close the podcast? Because I believe this is important. I believe there's someone crying out there. There are hearts which are broken. There are visions that are being given up on. It's so painful. I even feel emotional when I say this, because I remember my journey and I remember how it feels, because I know that the voice that people are hearing now of Puffy and Zion and Dr. Janine is a voice that really can lift someone from the pit of discouragement and hopelessness. I love what Mr. Zion asked earlier about what hope do you have for the next generation? So what can you say to people who are exhausted, who are discouraged, people who feel like their mindset has changed from positive to negative?
Puffy, when the past and the present meet, promotion is on the way. When the past and the present meet, promotion is on the way. I've seen it time and time again. I know that I'm ready to move to the next chapter in my life when God brings people from my past back into my life for a moment, and that introduces them to my present. So God takes people from my past and he introduces them temporarily to my present. And people miss that often. I assess why those people are here, what chapter I am closing, and what new chapter I am opening. So if you find yourself stuck today at a place, I cannot anymore, I want to give up, I'm asking you, check where you are in your process. Have you been at that place where the past and the present are now meeting up because promotion is on the way? Assess where you are, what chapter are you closing, and what new chapter are opening. It does not mean that when you're in that place, you write people off to go to the next place in your life. It's simply that wink that you get that says, get ready. You are moving from one point to another. Sometimes it is professional. Sometimes it's just our character. Sometimes it's our personal growth. Sometimes it's our transformational leadership. Sometimes it's a servant leadership. Sometimes it's in your career. And at times, really in your personal life. I want to ask you this. Who have you met up with lately? Who are the people that you surround yourself with? Because the 5 people surrounding you right now, that's the closest, that's where you will be in 5 years from now. And then you'll start recognizing this pattern of what I'm saying is when the past and the present meet, promotion is on the way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Janine Cabo. Woo, 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 woo. You know what? We celebrate you every day. And, you know, this is an honor and a privilege because the viewers or the listeners who are just listening in audio must know that you are also a strong part of the foundation of Destiny Connect Foundation and the vision itself. And you are playing a major role in the upliftment, you know, of young upcoming leaders and people who pursue leadership or transformational leadership. And we honor you and we salute you for the contributions that you are making, not only to Destiny Connect Foundation or Untold Stories of Hope podcast, but to many lives that you are impacting every day, you know, and people finding hope through your voice. And I believe that there are so many great opportunities, Dr. Janine, that are still awaiting you out there. So from me, 𝗶𝗵𝗴𝗍, thank you so much for joining us today on the Untold Stories of Hope podcast. And with the phenomenal Dr. Janine, she will also give us maybe some of her contacts that you can follow her on and be able to engage with her so that we are able to, you know, expand the network. So I'm grateful to have spoken to you today. And I know there are so many great things that are still coming, but I appreciate that your presence always makes a difference in our lives. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you so much, 𝗵𝗶. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, 𝗵𝗶. Yes, Dr. Jenny, you can go ahead. How can people reach you? For persons who want to reach out to you when it comes to transformative leadership, they want to learn more, how can they reach out to you?
I've tried to make it as easy as possible, Zion. So if you just put in 𝗃𝗓𝗋𝗋.co.za, that is even my username on my social. So it makes it easy, but it's also my website. So 𝗃𝗓𝗋𝗋.co.za. You can find me on my socials platforms like that, as well as my website. And you can also find me on iTunes and on Spotify on my podcast, where I speak often about leadership, growth, business growth, and personal growth. And it's called 10 Intentional Minutes with Janine. But if you go to all the socials, you just put in my name in Google, you will find lots of resources. I love adding value and I love sharing resources. So, but thank you for this opportunity, 𝗵𝗶 and Zion. It's always an honor to join you guys. It's a great honor to be part of this amazing organization at DCF. And our heart and our vision is to make impact and to transform the future. So we're looking forward to doing it, not by ourselves, but with the people listening and people that's going to come and take our hands so that we can literally carry out that vision of transformation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jenny, for that. Indeed, we are all in the room. If there's one thing you should take away from this podcast today, you belong. You are part of the team. We are all in the room, and together we can make much more impact. Do not forget, your story is unique. Your story is special. Your story, someone is waiting to hear it. And that story can be a catalyst for somebody to find hope, to find love, to find reason to keep living their life. So you want to share your story, you want the world to hear about you, do it to reach out to us at Destiny Connect Foundation. go on LinkedIn. We are in there. Go to our website, and we are ready to listen to you because we know that your story is powerful. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Untold Stories of Hope podcast. And don't worry, anticipate the next one because it's going to be powerful and life transforming. Thank you so much again, Dr. Janine, for joining us, for the nugget, the wisdom you shared with us today. I tell you, have been inspired. My life has been transformed. And to my brother, my buddy, my co-host of this podcast, Mr. Puffy, thank you so much. All right, guys, till we meet again next time. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Untold Stories of Hope podcast. We hope you enjoyed and you were inspired by today's conversation. Remember, you can get more access to resources plus join the thriving global community of change makers by visiting our website at @destinyconnectfoundation.org. Please subscribe to our channel and spread the word. Don't forget to turn the notification on. Until next time, keep inspiring your world.